Hi guys, so I'm back. I know it's been a month or so since I last uploaded, but I've been working hard on sewing commissions and some other personal work to save up some money for what I'm going to talk about today, which was very exciting. But I'm back now, and I should have a few more videos to upload for you guys. But last week, I was in Bavaria. I got to go back to Germany. That's what I've been working for the past month to get the money together for, so I don't have to dip into my school fund. But I went to Bavaria for a couple of reasons, some very personal that I'm not going to get into, but the two things I'm going to get into in this video and the next video, which is got everything prepped for over there, was to, one, go to Neuschwanstein and fulfill my childhood dream of finally getting to see it in person, and to go see this, which is the main focus of this video. I have been wanting to see this show for a few years now, and I was really upset when I couldn't go see it last year, because it premiered too close to the end of my study abroad trip last year for me to be able to plan things to be able to go see it. But this year I worked very hard to be able to go see it, and all of that paid off, and I got to spend a week in Bavaria. But this show was amazing. I saw it 3 times, each time with a different actor playing Ludwig. And it was awesome. Every night was completely unique, and each different actor was so different as Ludwig, and I didn't get a chance to review each one while I was there, because by the time I got back to my room after each performance, I was too tired to actually film. I meant to be filming this video there each night and have this be a part of my last video, but oh well. I'm now back home filming it. I still have all of my cast lists from each night, and they are in order. So this is the first one. The first night, I went to go see someone who I've seen before. I've seen him perform before. I saw him last summer in Berlin in Tanz der Vampire. I saw Jan Ammann as Ludwig for the first show. And I was probably the most excited to see him. Out of the 3 Ludwigs that I saw, I was probably the most excited to see him, because he was the one who introduced me to the role. He's the first one I heard any recordings of, because it's on one of his solo albums, and he's on the original cast recording, which I have. I also have the new cast recording, but we'll get into that. But anyway, Jan was really good. I cried about as much as I expected to. Like all the other shows I've seen, not necessarily at the points in the show that I expected to cry at. I did cry during the very first scene because I got overwhelmed that I was finally there. I expected to cry during the song Kalte Sterne, especially with Jan, because that's one of those songs that is up there for me with Music of the Night for songs that I listen to when I can't fall asleep. Yeah, it's up there towards the top with Music of the Night and Let's the Vorhang from Schickenator. Those 3 songs I tend to put on loop when I can't fall asleep, because I find them very soothing, very comforting. So I expected to cry during that, but it took me a lot longer. The song was over halfway done by the time I started crying, because I guess it took a while to set in live, but it was just so good. Jan is an amazing performer, like, really one of the best. but his Ludwig was very aggressive, I guess would be the way to put it. He was very emotional, very expressive, and very good, but very, very good. There was not really a dull moment with him as Ludwig. I was thoroughly impressed. But then again, I went in expecting to be impressed by him. There were some people I went in that I'm not necessarily a big fan of that were in this show, and I went in not expecting to be impressed by them. Not going to really mention any names, but I was impressed very much by both of them. I was very confused, though, by the fact that this version of the show, the words were different. Because I'm used to listening to the original cast album, which has slightly different songs and the words are slightly different. Which really threw me off. There were only a handful of songs where the words were exactly the same. Kalte Sterne was one of them. And I think most of Ludwig's songs, I think, were the same. When he was singing alone, when he was singing solo. Whenever he was singing with other people, the words were all different, except for his song with Durkheim, Freundschaft. That was the same. Which, ooh, I just realized I haven't talked about the Durkheim I saw yet, the first night. It's hard for me to talk about Durkheim. It shouldn't be, considering I've talked about this particular man before in my Vienna video. Udo was Durkheim the first and third time that I saw him, because he was my second Ludwig. And we'll get to that. That's going to be a long discussion. But him as Durkheim was really good. I'm still not necessarily a fan of the longer hair when he has it pulled up. When he has it down, it looks really nice. It looks like really, really nice. But I'm not sure I'm a fan of it pulled up. Maybe it'll grow on me, maybe. Who knows? But it looks better in person than it does in photos, I will say that much. But him playing Durkheim, he was really good. I've only ever heard him sing in his higher range, really. I've never heard him get into his lower range, really. And there were some points in time in Ludwig where he had to get into his lower range, both when he was playing Durkheim and when he was playing Ludwig. They tended to be in the same song, actually, because he was playing both roles at one point, because he, over the course of the performances I saw, played both Durkheim and Ludwig, so he was on both sides of the song Freundschaft, so I got to hear him sing the entire thing. And both of them have to get quite low during that song, and I was waiting to hear how he was going to do that, because I'd never heard him sing in that range before, and I was thoroughly impressed. He could rival some of the others that I've listened to. I don't think anyone's ever going to quite beat, for me singing low notes, no one's going to quite beat Jan, ever, I don't think. If anyone does, I will be very impressed by them. Because I don't normally like those lower ranges to listen to, it just doesn't appeal to me. But Jan's the exception. Jan's one of the very, very few exceptions. But Udo singing that low range was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. The amount of control that he has. I was very impressed. But the show itself, not just the actress, but the show itself was visually just gorgeous. I'm still freaked out by the giant skeleton puppet props that they have during this one scene with Otto. It's the scene after he starts to go a little bit, after he starts to lose his mind a little bit, after Otto starts to lose his mind a little bit. the skeleton props are to show what's going on inside his head, and it's, honestly, I am surprised I haven't had nightmares about those props. I could never work backstage. I could never work this show. Just knowing that I will probably run into one of those props in the dark backstage at some point, because they are the freakiest thing I've ever seen. They create a really awesome effect though, but it was visually one of the most appealing shows I've ever seen. They use a lot of color symbolism like Mozart did. They also have part of the floor, the entire stage rotates, by the way. The center part of the stage rotates, and there's different parts in the floor that rotate differently, and it's really cool. I want to work with a stage like that someday, because that'd be a really cool thing. As me, being a stage manager, to learn to work with that would be really fun. But in addition to the floor rotating in different spots, like smaller circles would rotate faster and whatnot, and rotate independently of the larger floor rotating, which they use for the scene where it's, I'm not going to spoil it, but during one scene that involves Dr. Gooden, who I'll get into in a minute. Dr. Gooden was awesome. But there's another part of the floor, in addition to what rotates, that they can remove. And under the floor is a pool that they use for, like, there's a boat scene, which was really cool. There's the dancing woman who's symbolic of a swan. And then of course they use it, those of you who know about Ludwig, they use it for his death scene as well, which didn't quite go the way I thought it was going to go. I mean, it ended the way it was supposed to, of course, but the way they did it was different. But it was good. The whole show was good. The theater was gorgeous, the staging was gorgeous, the music was fantastic. The harmonies in some of the songs were amazing. I've never heard anything quite like it live. But anyway, the first night, that was really good. It set the tone for me for the entire rest of the show, of course. But Jan was amazing. Got to see him after the show, like I did in Berlin. I was less afraid to talk to him this time, even though he was poking fun at me about him not being a vampire anymore, so he doesn't bite. Thanks, Jan. But it was amazing. I got to see Jan. I got to see Udo. I got to talk to Anna Hoffbauer, but I didn't get a photo with her. Who else did I see that first night? I saw Kevin that first night, right? Yeah, I saw Kevin and got this from him. He kind of, I didn't even really ask for it, he kind of just gave it to me. He's also one of the first people to ask my name and then spell it correctly without me having to tell them how to spell it, which I was thoroughly impressed with. I think the only other person who has done that correctly the first time, the very first time. Some others have done it when I've seen them more than once. The second time they've done it correctly. But the only one who's done it correctly the first time, other than Kevin, was when I met Tom last year after Tanztevempire. And I think Milan did as well. But Kevin was sort of cool. He, like Jan, teased me a bit about being nervous. That doesn't make you any less nervous, by the way, just so you know. But they were all cool. And then the second night was probably after Jan, the one I was looking forward to the most. I wanted to see how Udo would compare with, how do I say this, more seasoned people. People who've been doing this, like, especially this role for a lot longer, people like Jan and Matthias. They've been doing it for years, and then he only did it last year for the first time. And I know he's an incredible performer. He's probably one of my favorites, actually. He might be, no, Jan's still at the top. But Udo's like right, he's almost tying for my favorite with Jan. But his Ludwig was very different than Jan's. Jan was very emotional and very, he didn't really hold back the emotion, which made for some really amazing scenes. But then Udo's Ludwig was much more held back. He was still very emotional, and you could tell, but he was much more sensitive about it. And it created a very different effect. It kind of, in my opinion, portrayed Ludwig a bit better. Because Ludwig kind of was always in his head. He always had this world that he dreamt of. And Udo really brought that across in how he performed it without saying it. Just the way his actions were, the way his interactions were a lot more gentle. He only lost his temper as Ludwig once. And that was at the end, and honestly, that was a bit scary. But his performance made me cry a whole lot more than Jan's. Like, I don't think there was hardly a moment where I wasn't crying at some point, just because, one, his voice is gorgeous. Especially with Kartashana, like, that was the song that I was looking forward to the most from all of them. All three of them. And honestly, his was my favorite. Out of the three Ludwigs that I saw, while his wasn't the one I was looking forward to the most, his was the one I ended up enjoying the most. And I'm really not sure why. Because I feel really bad, because I expected Jan's to be my favorite, because Jan is probably one of the best. There was something about Udo's performance that brought out more emotion in me. Not to say Jan wasn't fantastic, because he was amazing, and it was one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. But for some reason, Udo as a Ludwig was beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful. It was really good. There's nothing else I can really say. I expected to be able to say more. The only thing that was a bit off about his performance wasn't about him. It was the stage crew was having some issues with the fog machines. Apparently, like, I can only guess at this because I don't know for sure, but it seemed that the fog machines, the sensitivity or whatever on them was a bit too high, and there was a bit too much. Quite a lot, actually. This is a problem they had, not just in one scene, but throughout the show, because they use fog machines a lot. They use it to create, like, mist over the lake. They use it to create the gun smoke during the war scene. They were having some issues with their fog machines. But the show was still really, really, really good. And I should mention that during Curtain Call, we brought them out 3 times for bows. Not just with him, but with Jan. Just because this cast was amazing. It was just, the entire cast was good. All the Ludwigs were good. All of them were good. Anna Hofbauer as Lisbeth was amazing. I impressed them all the first night, which I'm shocked by. And I'm very proud of the fact that I was able to impress them all. You all saw my dress that I wore in my last video that was taken in Bavaria. Because that dress is inspired by her dress in the show. Not the new version, the older version. Because I like that dress a whole lot better. Those two, like, all the Ludwigs were good. Anna Hofbauer was good. Alexander Kerbst as Dr. Gooden was amazing. Like, he's another one who has that deep voice that I really like. it was really odd. Like, I don't quite know what I was feeling listening to him, but his voice was really good. I liked it a lot. Kevin as the Shadow Man. His voice was good, his acting was good, but his voice did some weird things a couple of times. When he had these really long notes towards the end of the song, his voice would go really high, like not out of tune, like not bad, but just really high, where he sounded very feminine, and it was very odd. Like, it was a bit unsettling. Like, it sounded really good, but it was just really, really unsettling, and I'm not quite sure, given the option, that I would go listen to that particular moment again, because that was just, it was good, but it was unsettling. But then the last night, the performance was good. The performance was good. They just had some major malfunctions. And again, it wasn't the actors that were having malfunctions, it was the stage crew. I understand this pain as a stage manager, but something must have gone wrong during the break between the two double shows. Nothing bad happened, they just had some slight, how I would put it, rigging malfunctions. They have a lot of, in this show, they have a lot of set pieces that are raised and lowered from the fly space up above. They also have, at one point, this is not a spoiler because you see photos of this everywhere, but they have this giant curtain for part of one scene that's supposed to be loosely attached to part of the rigging, and then it's supposed to drop all at the same time. Each connection point is supposed to drop simultaneously. That happened, except for one connection piece remained. And they had to go, and I could definitely tell what was going on because I'm a stage manager. I know how to work backstage, how they had to do this. The mechanism didn't release, so they had to have someone actually go into the crawl space up there. They had a stagehand do it and, like, actually physically release it. But they also, one of the backdrops didn't go up, because they've got backdrops at different intervals to create different amounts of space on stage. One of the backdrops that was supposed to go up to have this whole back section didn't go up. They were having some severe issues getting that to go up, so that changed how they had to do the lighting for the next scene, and they recovered from all of this very, very well. I was very impressed at the recovery. I hope one day to be able to do recoveries that smooth with the people I work with. But it was really good. It was still really good. Like, the show was really good. My final Ludwig, Matthias, his voice was good. His voice was absolutely beautiful. I really like his voice. I don't think he was having a very good day that day. You could tell that while his voice was really good, his heart wasn't in it that night. Everyone has bad days, but sometimes with certain people you can tell a bit more. His heart was not in his performance that night, and it showed. It really showed. And I don't like being critical like this, but it definitely showed that he was having a bad day. But he was still good. That's the thing. He was still good even though his heart wasn't in it. So I can only imagine when everything's going good for him, everything's going normal for him, what he must be like. So I can't say I didn't enjoy it. I just can say that I didn't enjoy it as much as the previous two nights. But it was still very good. I was still very, very impressed. He did at one point during one of probably my favorite song other than Kartestana, he did forget his lines. Remembered most of the song. He just forgot like 2 or 3 lines towards the end of the song. He recovered very well from it. Someone who didn't necessarily know the show wouldn't notice. That's the thing. Like, he kept his composure so well and continued with his blocking throughout it, that if you didn't know the show already, you wouldn't have picked up on the mistake. It's just because I know the entire show front to back. Both the old version and now the new version. I know it beginning to end. So, I could definitely tell. But the show was still really good. And again, we brought them out, I believe, 3 times for bows at the end because it was just that good. But again, all 3 nights I went to the stage door. The first 2 nights it was slightly more comfortable. Sorry, I don't know what just happened there with my voice. But I was slightly more comfortable the first 2 nights because I made some new friends from Shanghai. I can't seem to go to the stage door at most shows without making at least one new friend. And they're usually from Asia. They're usually from Asia. The only difference this time is they're usually from Japan. But this time they were from Shanghai, and there was a bunch of them. It was mostly, they were pretty much all Udo's fans from Shanghai, and it was really, really pretty fun. But they made it easier for me to talk to people because there was a bunch of them, and they were all talking with people, and it was just easy for me to join in on the conversation, and I feel much more comfortable talking with, you know, like Jan, which as soon as I started talking to Jan, I instantly felt comfortable talking to him. I saw Kevin, I saw Udo, I saw a couple of other people. It was a pretty good night at the stage door. I felt much less nervous that time, except when talking to Udo. I was actually more nervous that time talking to Udo than I was the first time, and I really have no idea why, considering that was, at that point, my 5th time trying to talk to him at the stage door. And I was more nervous that time than I was the very first time when I was in Vienna. I have no idea what happened. I really don't. But then the 3rd night, oh, I also saw Alexander the 2nd night, but I didn't see him at the stage door. I saw him while he was still in costume inside the theater. And then the 3rd night I saw him again and got a photo with him. That was really cool. He was really good and really nice, and it was pretty fun. He is probably another one that I would gladly go see again. And then I saw, at the stage door, I saw Kevin again, I saw Udo again, got another picture that I really like with Udo. The only thing I don't like about it is the fact that I'm really short in it because I'm not wearing heels. Every other photo that I have with him, I'm wearing heels, so I don't look as short next to him. I look more of a normal height difference. I have to wear heels to performances most of the time because all the actors are so much taller than me. And then I saw Matthias, but I didn't get a photo with him. But I did get him to, I'm dropping things, but I did get him to sign my program. That was really cool. But yeah, I got his autograph, I got Kevin's on this, I got Alexander's. I also got Jan's and Anna Hofbauer's, but those are on a program that I gave to my friend Taylor. And then I got these 2 to sign it, but they got a bit smudged. But yeah, it was good. It was good. Still not going to say it's my favorite show. It's going to be really hard to replace Mozart as my favorite show. But I have to say, it was worth all of the work it took to get there. Overall, I'd have to give the show 9 out of 10. I'd have to rate it 9 out of 10, yeah. It probably would have gotten 10 out of 10 if it hadn't been for the mechanical issues the last night. Seeing some of the mechanical issues earlier in the show, I was starting to worry about the pyrotechnics that they have during one scene. Thankfully, those went off without a hitch. That went off completely fine. But yeah, overall, 9 out of 10. The singing, I'd give 10 out of 10. any singing that can make me cry that much, 10 out of 10. The visuals, again, if you discount the last night where they were having technical issues, again, 10 out of 10. It was amazing. Probably, again, after Tanz der Vampire, probably the most visually appealing show that I've ever seen. But yeah, that's my review of Ludwig, which exceeded expectations. I went in with pretty high expectations and it exceeded pretty much all of them, I think. I would completely go see that show again. I'd recommend, this particular production's almost over, but anytime they do this show again, I would 100% recommend going and seeing it. It was amazing, and I know I will be seeing it again in the future. That is a fact. I will definitely be seeing it again. Not this production, but future productions I will definitely be going to see again. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. Look into this show. Please, look into this show. It is awesome. It will, even those of you that aren't fans of, super big fans of history, it will blow your mind. So, yeah, I will leave this video here, and I will see all of you next time.